Oh hey, it's Mario Day again. Well, last year I briefly subjected myself to Mario 64 hell. So this year, let's switch gears and look at the original Super Mario Bros. The one game that everyone can definitively agree started the ever-popular mainline Super Mario series. Unless you're one of those sick people that think it started with Mario Brothers, in which case go back to Yum Measly Land. Not even counting its many official re-releases, Super Mario Bros. Is an extremely ubiquitous game that you can probably play on any device that can emulate or bootleg an NES. You probably have a way to boot the game up within like a minute if I ask you to. Heck, you can even just Google it and play it online if you want it. But as they say, piracy is no party. So this got me thinking, how many times have I paid for Super Mario Bros? And by that, I mean how many official versions, remakes, or ports of Super Mario Bros. Have I legally paid money to get access to, not counting any bootlegs. And to address some edge cases, my arbitrary criteria also states it must be a variant with gameplay similar to the NES original. So no 1986 crystal screen Game & Watch, even though it is legitimately one of my coolest and luckiest finds. Also, it must be unrestricted access to the entirety of Super Mario Bros. So the timed demos in Super Smash Bros. Don't count, and neither does Amiibo Tap on the Wii U. So let's start looking around what I have in my room, starting with the original Famicom release from Japan. I really enjoy how simple the early Famicom game boxes are, with the short and wide packaging and manuals. And this is definitely one of the most memorable examples of Famicom box art, to the point this classic artwork by Shigeru Miyamoto is still very recognizable outside Japan. Actually, I have 2 of these cartridges, so think that counter again. It's a simple release, but a quintessential one, the one that started it all. Next up, we have the Famicom Disk System release. Before you say silly AK, that's the Lost Levels you're holding there. My copy of the Lost Levels actually has Mario 1 on the other side, so we have both games on the same disc with the official labels for each. There is an independent release of Mario 1 on the disk system complete with box and manual, but apparently that's a little less common to find. As for the game, it's just Mario 1 on a disc. You load it in once and there's no additional extras or anything. You can play the whole game with the disc removed if you want. But this game does have its own unique and actually beatable minus world, so that's pretty cool. And if you want, you can always just flip the disc side at any time for convenient torture. And now the NES version of Super Mario Bros. You know it, you love it. The one where Mario is about to pull off a sick wall jump to save him from impending death because Miyamoto confirms this man is not dying. This box has seen some better days, and the top flap of the box is missing, but hey, this is one of those early sticker seals that collectors really love. Gonna get this graded and earn big money. There's also a price tag on the back that reveals this was originally imported to Hong Kong to be sold back in the day, which is neat. I wonder how much this price is now, adjusted for inflation. Inside, we have the cartridge and its sleeve, the English manual, and a super sick poster with upcoming games and Rob the Robot front and center. This packaging is just peak 80s. On the other side of the value spectrum, we have Super Mario Bros. Plus Duck Hunt. This is probably one of the most common versions of this game. It has Super Mario Bros. And Duck Hunt. Fun for the whole family, though the Famicom Disk System definitely had it way more hardcore. Okay, that's all the original releases for the NES and Famicom, so let's move on to the Super NES with Super Mario All-Stars, which of course contains a full 16-bit remake of Super Mario Bros. This is a pretty decent version of the game. Aside from the weird brick block physics, it plays pretty much the same. And the upgraded presentation is a treat as well, offering lots of material for Flash games for years to come. Oh, I also have the Japanese Super Famicom version as well, so ding the counter again. And keeping it up with new variations of Super Mario Bros., we have Super Mario Bros. Deluxe on the Game Boy Color. This almost could have been one of the definitive versions of the game, with all the extra modes and goodies, if only it weren't for the screen crunch, which isn't too bad in practice, but still. It's still a fantastic companion game to own in addition to the original, especially in its original form so you can print random Mario sprites with it. Unfortunately, the Game Boy Advance did not get a version of Super Mario Bros. That was as deluxe, as here we have the Japanese Famicom Mini version of Super Mario Bros. I do like how the cartridge is Famicom Red and the label is a replica of the original cartridge artwork, but for the actual game itself... yeah, it is very scrunched. It's not good looking. Well, at least with the GBA wireless adapter, you can set up the precursor to DS download play and also do something stupid like this. But otherwise, it's not the best portable version of the game in my opinion. Let's move on to the Wii with quite possibly the first time I ever paid for Super Mario Bros. On the Wii Virtual Console. Back on my older family Wii, I was gifted a Wii points card to use on anything, so I decided to get Super Mario Bros. And the Internet Channel back when it cost money. Nintendo later offered a free NES Virtual Console game to anyone who paid for the Internet Channel, and I picked The Lost Levels. I was an innocent soul back then. But back on topic, the Wii VC version of Super Mario Bros. Is a pretty no-frills version without the save states of later iterations, but for one of the first Virtual Console releases, it still looks good and functions pretty well. Especially if you connect the Wii to a PVM through component cables and have that ultra crisp display going. Virtual Console games on Wii look so good on a PVM. Or you can hook it up to a 4K TV through composite and engage in blasphemy, it's up to you. And here's something they could have released on Virtual Console but didn't, it's Super Mario All-Stars Limited Edition for the Wii. This is of course the Japanese version, and the extra booklet and CD are neat, but definitely fall short compared to later offerings like Kirby's Dream Collection. Oh, and I also have the Hong Kong version that I can actually read and understand. The actual game is just the Mario All-Stars ROM on a Wii disc with sideways Wii Remote support. I think people have memed on this release enough already. This is probably not gonna be my go-to way of playing Mario 1 anytime soon. Next we have the 3DS Virtual Console release. Well, I actually got this for free, but it was through the Ambassador program, which I had to pay the 3DS's early launch price to join, so in a roundabout way I did technically still pay for this version. It's the first official way you could play Super Mario Bros. On a portable device with barely any compromise to the presentation, and with save states to boot. The only downside being that it isn't a pixel-perfect scaling and also uses one of the more saturated NES color palettes if you're not into that sort of thing. And while we're on 3DS Virtual Console, there's also Super Mario Bros. Deluxe on Virtual Console. This is one of the last few games I got off the 3DS eShop before it died. And it's Super Mario Bros. Deluxe with all its bonuses and disadvantages. Now you can have the screen crunch, but bigger. I just wish the regular screen size wasn't forced to have bilinear filters on, but the pixel perfect mode with the Game Boy border is still pretty cool. But wait, we're not done with the 3DS yet. Because Ultimate NES Remakes technically contains a full version of Super Mario Bros. In it in the form of Speed Mario Bros. It's Super Mario Bros. But faster, and not really in a good way in my opinion. They literally just had someone turn up the emulation speed and did not bother to deal with the pixel jittering and inconsistent frame rates. At least NES Remix Pack on the Wii U fares a little better, as NES Remix 2 features Super Luigi Bros., which is Super Mario Bros. But mirrored and with Luigi's Lost Levels physics. So at the very least, more effort was put into this mode than Speed Mario Bros. And the changes actually make it more interesting than the original game. They even bothered to change the ending a little bit by adding in Mario's sprite implying he got to the princess before Luigi did. Classy. I did not purchase Super Mario Bros. On Wii U Virtual Console by the way, because I did not buy one until 2017. So oops. Next, we're moving on from the Wii U and into the Nintendo Classic Mini Famicom, part of Nintendo's 2016 plans to revive the plug-and-play system for better and worse. And you can't have a plug-and-play Famicom without Super Mario Bros. It actually would be a pretty decent way to experience the original game, if it weren't for the hardwired tiny controllers exclusive to the Famicom Mini. I mean, I kinda like this form factor purely for the novelty since all of the other mini Nintendo consoles just use regular size controllers. But they later took the really good NES emulator on the system and put it on the Switch, which is a way more convenient option. And speaking of the Switch, of course Nintendo is gonna have you buy Super Mario Bros. Again on it. But before NES Online came around, we actually first got Arcade Archives vs Super Mario Bros. In December of 2017. Now you may be arguing versus Super Mario Bros. Isn't technically Super Mario Bros. Because it's not just a simple arcade conversion of the original. It actually has a mix of modified Mario 1 levels and completely new levels that will later go on to be reused in the Lost Levels. But there are basically only 6 new levels in this version, so I'd argue this game hasn't really ship-of-feasiest its way into becoming a completely separate game yet and counts for this list. It's a neat subversion of the original game if you've never played it, but I've noticed the Arcade Archives version actually introduces some very slight input lags, so keep that in mind. And by the way, there's also an NES conversion of this game if you'd like an alternative. Now we finally move on to Nintendo Switch Online, which as of this video is probably the one official and convenient way for most people to play Super Mario Bros. At the moment. And yeah, I have no notes for the NES Online version. The picture quality is top-notch, it's got save states and rewinding, and online that, indeed, functions. And yes, I am still paying for Nintendo Switch Online, so I have technically paid for Super Mario Bros. Here. Same goes for Super Mario All-Stars on SNES Online, which was released for the 35th anniversary of Super Mario Bros. They finally figured out they could just release it like normal instead of putting the ROM on a Switch cartridge and charging $60 for it. Well, technically they just did it, but with, look, 3D All-Stars has Galaxy in HD and that's worth the money. They just had to not make it a limited release. Anyway, yeah, it's the best re-release of Mario All-Stars out of both of them. Can't wait for them to eventually add Super Mario Bros. Deluxe to NSO. Despite the accessibility of Switch Online though, the as of now newest official release of Super Mario Bros. Is still one of the coolest. The Super Mario Bros. Game & Watch. Not to be confused with the Super Mario Bros. Game & Watch. The one from 1986 is too different to count, but this is basically the NES original on a dedicated handheld, and it probably has every other version I own beat in terms of sheer convenience. You could be like, I want to play some Mario 1 and just pick it up and play it in literal seconds. And the extra features like the second quest and world select being permanently unlockable and the infinite lives cheat are the cherries on top of the sundae. It may not be an authentic Game & Watch with its high-resolution color LCD, but it is Super Mario Bros. And Lost Levels in the form of its own dedicated boutique handheld, and it just can't get any better than that. Lol, just kidding. My latest official purchase of Super Mario Bros. And probably the most expensive one yet comes as part of the Super Famicom box. It's a Super Famicom meant to be installed in Japanese hotels with a pay-per-play system, and I have no idea how I managed to win this at an auction. And one of its 5 available games is, that's right, Super Mario All-Stars, which I have unlimited free play access to and exists physically inside the system in the form of this gigantic cartridge along with Super Mario Kart and Star Fox. This is technically my largest copy of Super Mario Bros. Look, there will maybe eventually be a separate video about this thing. But looks like so far I have legally paid for Super Mario Bros. A grand total of 22 times. And knowing Nintendo, I'm sure the Switch's successor will be the 23rd time instead of all our NSO games carrying over. Well, thank you for indulging in this stupid question with me, and I'll see you next Mario Day where I talk about my legal copies of Mario 64.